Hey guys, how you doing? Today's going to be a little bit different. Instead of just a drawing, we're going to actually use colored paper and we're going to use whatever supplies we have. So I have some crayons, I have some colored pencils, I do have a Sharpie, but you don't need all of this. So whatever you have work. You could do will work. You can do the whole thing with crayons, the whole thing with colored pencils. Markers, all markers won't work. You definitely need crayons or colored pencils or pastels or something like that. So what we're going to do is a winter scene, okay? And this is something we're going to actually do in class here, probably in January for those of you that are coming. But you can practice ahead of time, and some of you can get a head start on this. And then that way when I do post the assignment, you'll be able to just simply turn it in because you had already done it. Or maybe try it again because you'll get better at it. So what we're going to do is a snow scene. So I have a piece of blue paper to represent the background, like the sky. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line, and it doesn't have to be straight. Actually, it probably shouldn't be. Like this. And that's going to represent the snow on the ground. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in this snow. So this video may take a little longer than the others because I have to actually color things in. Now what I like to do is at the top I push pretty hard, and then as I go down I actually push a little bit lighter. Like that. Over here, push hard. As I come down I get a little lighter. Now we're using blue paper, but because it's a darker blue paper, I kind of want this to look like a nighttime scene. So not when it's real dark, but whenever the sun's going down, and because there was so much snow last night, if anybody was outside in the evening or looked out, the white snow on the ground actually makes it look a lot lighter outside than it really is. So there's our snow that's on the ground. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in a snowman. So pick a side of your paper or the middle, wherever you want, and we're going to add a snowman. So I'm going to do them right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is 3 circles. So the bottom one's the biggest. I'm not going to press super hard on these. There's one. The next one's slightly smaller. 2. And then the top one is the smallest for the head. 3. Okay? Now whenever I color these, I want to shade them. And I want to shade diagonally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push hard with the white here and then not so hard as I go down. And I'm going to do that for each of the 3 circles. So watch what I mean. Actually, I'll start on the bottom one. I'm going to push hard to make it as white as possible in that corner of each one. And as I go down, look how I get lighter, meaning I don't press as hard. I want to say lighter, but really because we're using white, it's actually lighter where I'm pressing hard. It's kind of reversed, right? So push hard at the top corner, and as you go down, start to press easier, even to the point where you may not have to color at all on the very edge. Okay? Press hard on this one. Down. Okay? All right. And you may have to go back and do a few little touch-ups of spots you missed, especially if you're doing this quickly like I did. Okay? So there's my snowman. All right, now I can add some details. I'm going to use an orange crayon. Look, even my crayons are broken. You don't have to have perfect stuff here. So an orange crayon for the nose, right here. My carrot nose. All right. I'm going to use a brown colored pencil for his arms. I got to push pretty hard on this dark blue paper to get it to show up. Okay? I'm going to use my Sharpie for the hat, but if you have a black crayon or a black colored pencil, that will work too. And I'm going to color that in. The reason why I'm using all these different materials is just so that I could show you that, just because you don't have a whole set of something at home doesn't mean you can't do art. You may have a couple of crayons, you may find a marker in a drawer somewhere, you may have some pencils laying around. You don't have to have every little thing. I think I'm going to use this for the eyes too. Eye, mouth, buttons. Okay? Next, I'm going to use a crayon for a scarf. I'm going to go with a red scarf. So watch how easy it is to make a scarf. All we're going to do is literally kind of scribble back and forth on the neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line like this, and I'm going to go back and forth till I get it as thick as I want it, and then I'm going to choose a side to make 2 lines going out like that. Voila, he has a scarf on, blowing in the wind. Okay? Now, we're going to add a tree. So I'm going to get my box of different supplies. See all my random supplies here? Don't have to have everything. And I'm going to find a green crayon. Got one. Again, my stuff is not perfect either here. Work with what you got. I got to peel it. Remember, once you may not always have perfect stuff. Peel it like that. It's not much of a point, but guess what? When I start coloring, it will get pointy. Here's my trick for trees with a crayon. Watch. I turn my paper somewhat sideways because what I do is I call it a scribble tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to start right on the white because there's going to be a little trunk there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a line like this. See that line? Back and forth. Okay? Now that's the bottom of the tree. The bottom of the tree is thicker. As you go up, the tree gets skinny, right? So what I do is I scribble my tree. Watch. I get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until I hit a point. Okay? Now what I do is I like to take a darker green. See, I used a lighter green, darker green, but you don't have to do this step. And now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of scribbles with this. Just like that. Okay? Then I'm going to take my white and add some more scribbles. Notice how all I'm doing is scribbling on the edges. I'm not doing anything fancy. Oh, broke it. Because you got to push hard on this dark paper like that. Boom. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is take brown. I have a pencil ready. You could use a crayon. This is the same brown I used for the arms. And I'm going to simply draw a little rectangle for the trunk. Like that. Okay? All right. Now, with my broken white, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to add some snow. So what I like to do is I just do little dots like this. All I'm doing is little tiny marks. You don't want to jab like this because it doesn't turn out as well. Just take your crayon. Look, it doesn't have to be pointy. Look, I'm using that side. And I'm just using the very edge to make these little tiny lines. Lines, dots for snowflakes. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm not done yet. Now what I'm going to do is I want this to be, like I said, kind of nighttime. Okay, so I want like the moon coming out. So up in the corner, I'm going to use white. I would like to use yellow, but you know what will happen because this is blue paper? If I put yellow crayon on blue paper, guess what? I'll get green because we're going to be mixing those two colors. We learned that here in school when we talked about the color wheel. So I'm going to use white first, and I'm going to push pretty hard in this corner to get this nice and white. Now that I have it white, I can take my yellow and kind of go on top of that lightly. I still don't want to press super hard because there is blue under there. And I don't want it to turn out green. So there, now I have a little bit of a moon up in the sky. Okay? And here's the cool part. Everybody always likes when I do this. What happens when the moon shines on an object? You get a shadow, right? So we're going to have two shadows here. We don't want to make the shadows black. We want to actually make them blue. because if they're black, it'll just be too dark and probably ruin the picture. So here's what we do for our tree. We want to kind of mimic the shape. The moon's up here, it's shining diagonal, so the shadow will be diagonal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blue and I'm going to scribble diagonal the trunk, and then wider for the bottom of the tree, skinny for the top of the tree. Okay? For my snowman, diagonal, one circle, two, the head. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Check it out. So now we have a snowman, a tree, a moon, and some shadows, all with a couple of old scrap crayons and whatever we may have laying around the house. Now, if you don't have blue paper, you could still probably do this, but you may have to color the paper with blue first, color in the background, not real hard, just kind of lightly, and then go from there. So hopefully this is something different and fun for you guys. Good luck.